The goal of the kingdom of Satan is to steal, kill, and destroy. And you know who the target is? Those believers who have Christ in them, who have wisdom in them. You are the target. Good morning and welcome to our Trinity International family members around the world. Thank you for being part of my family, Trinity International. Thank you all also for your contributions to the ministry, and I don't want you to take this lightly, but it's because of you that God is able to use me to share wisdom with people everywhere and bring in the harvest. Thank you. I just want to remind you that you need to please subscribe to both our YouTube channels, if it's possible for you to do that, or you could subscribe to our Rumble channel. And you know, if you do that, don't forget to press on the notifications bell. Once you do that, you will have access to all the sermons I have posted online since 2020. And I would advise you that have started late, use the middle of the week, 1 or 2 days, and try and go back and listen to a few sermons a week until you catch up, because the enlightenment that you will experience will reshape who you are, will renew your mind. So as Romans pointed out, you'll be able to test the will of God. And I believe that there are many who have reached that pinnacle and are with us at this current level that have a fully opened mind. And you know, when I just speak to you off the cuff now and tell you what will happen to your mind, you probably wouldn't be able to absorb the reality of it, but you'll only see the results in a while. And so please do that. There are also people who follow us and are part of our family who come under my covering around the world. If you wish to contribute your tithe and your love offerings, please use the international transfer agency called Remitly. You have to download that app on your phone and then use the information that will be given to you to transfer your contributions to Trinity International. When you need those details that you have to use for international transfers, please contact me on WhatsApp or on our email address. We leave that there, and I just want to bless everybody who is part of our kingdom, this part of the world rather. Last week we were speaking about the ability or the nature of Satan, who is put on this earth, and his nature will be carried out even amongst his children. So the devil has many offspring, spiritually speaking, and his offspring will mimic his character, and his character is to steal, to kill, and to destroy. And we need to be able to absorb this information, because if we bypass it, if we overlook it, there's a strong chance that he will be able to use his children against us, and without even us realizing it. To us, all we see is human, because they wear a human garment, they wear a human body, and so we don't see his nature as it is, because it is encased in a human body. All we see is humanity in a person, but we don't see the wolf that lurks underneath. So as I continue, you'll be able to realize how open you have been to allowing the enemy's children to steal, kill, and destroy your own life. We will look at the broad picture a little later on. But let me start by sharing with you some stuff from scientific journals around the world. Now, the first thing I want to read to you, the first sentence, is that thought and senses play a crucial role in stimulating various biological functions in humans. So, everything that happens between your ears, the things that your mind contemplates, as well as the things that your eyes see, what you hear, your senses, they bring that information from outside world into the inside world in here, and then your mind starts to contemplate what you see and what you hear. But science is telling us that it is because of these stimuli from the outside. It leads to a chain reaction of biological processes that happen inside your body. And we're going to read through a list of these processes. The first thing that stimuli from the outside and the thoughts that happen in your brain do is to affect the biological system inside your body that we know as the nervous system. And the journal tells us thoughts and sensory stimuli such as seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, or feeling activate the nervous system. Now, I'm not going to read to you to make you a scientist or a biologist. I want to just help you see the basics. So, these journals are now confirming that what we think in our minds and what we think because of what we see outside play a role in your nervous system and how your nerve cells operate. The second thing is cognition and mental processing. So it affects how you start to think because of what you thought and because of how you're thinking. Your future actions, your ability for you to comprehend is affected by what you see. And so sometimes you'll hear people saying that this thing was so overwhelming that it didn't give me a chance to think about what I'm going to do or what I was doing. I just did it out of momentum, not thinking, because I was under stress. So it affects your ability to make decisions. I want you to think carefully about this, because it's not just something loosely to be imagined. It's something scientific that happens, that because of the outside stimuli, because of maybe you found out that your husband has been unfaithful for 28 years. You don't stop to think about what you do. Sometimes you can act and not realizing that you are doing something without thinking. And that's how people get murdered, and then they'll use that defense, temporary insanity. And it is a defense in court simply because it is science. Because science says when something affects what you see, affects the way you think, it affects your cognitive ability. And so science is saying to us that it makes us dumber than we should be because of something that happens to us. Just bear that in mind as a reality now. So there's two things so far. It affects your nervous system, and then it affects your cognition and mental processing. Now, while I'm discussing this, you might see a diagram that will appear called the endocrine system. And this is the next system of your body that what you think and what you see from the outside affects. We'll read the journal. Thoughts and sensory stimuli can influence the release of hormones through the endocrine system. For example, stress or fear triggers the release of stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, which can increase heart rate and blood pressure. Now I'm going to read to you just as an example, so that when you are thinking something bad, when you're thinking something negative, when you sit and just feel sorry for yourself about what has happened to you and how that person spoke about you, and you replay it in your mind, these thoughts, they affect a lot of things. And I want you to realize that, because it does more than just being a temporary setback. It changes your inside, and sometimes permanently. Well, this is part of allowing the thief and the thief's children to rob you, to steal from you, to kill in you, to destroy you. So just think about what I'm saying as you're listening to me, because it is pivotal in protecting the gem that God sees as you. Now, what it does to the endocrine system, let's read. Activation of the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is a region in the brain, and it plays a crucial role in regulating the endocrine system. So the hypothalamus is, now you've seen how information from the outside gets transferred from one cell to the other cell by receptors. Now, in the same manner, what your brain thinks, it starts to activate certain hormones that are first, the information is first received by the hypothalamus. That's inside your head now. And let's continue. It receives signals from various parts of the brain, the hypothalamus, including those related to thoughts and emotions. Then you get the hypothalamus pituitary axis. That means where the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland, where they meet in terms of transferring of information. The hypothalamus releases hormones. Now, once your hypothalamus realizes and receives messages, ligands, from what the brain is thinking, it then sends that message interpreted as hormones, so that it can give a message to the pituitary gland. The hypothalamus releases hormones called releasing hormones or factors, which travel to the nearby pituitary gland. These releasing hormones stimulate or inhibit the production and release of specific hormones from the pituitary gland. So in layman's terms, once the hypothalamus knows what you're thinking and how your body needs to react to this, it sends out a message to the pituitary gland. And the pituitary gland starts to make hormones to suit the things that you are thinking, that will affect different parts and organs of your entire body. Pituitary gland. The pituitary gland, often referred to as the master gland, and this small little pea-shaped organ in your body, is about the most important organ to keep your body balanced. Without it, you won't be able, you'll be a vegetable. In fact, you'll be dead. That's how important this little pea-shaped thing is inside your head. It releases hormones that directly affect other endocrine glands throughout the body. The signals from the hypothalamus guide the pituitary gland to release the appropriate hormones into the bloodstream. Now these are examples to where the message goes. The message it sends is to these organs. The thyroid gland. So the thyroid gland is responsible for your metabolic rate, how fast sugar burns in you, how much energy your cells use. So that rate is determined by the hormone of the thyroid gland. And the thyroid gland only does its work when it receives a message from the pituitary gland. And the pituitary gland will only do its work when it receives a message from the hypothalamus. And the hypothalamus only does its work depending on what you think. So the devil can't control your inside body works. The things that you think control how your body works. Just understand the concept. Because sometimes people who are struggling with depression and heartache, and they're feeling sorry for themselves and they want to give up, and they get sickly, and they don't know that choosing to live under stress and refusing to get rid of the stress, unnecessary stress in your life, it results in you killing yourself slowly. And the devil's agents end up doing what they are commissioned by him to do to you. So understand how important it is. Sometimes you'll get people that say, but you know, I know they are not good for me. I know they cause me problems, but it's so hard to get rid of these people. How do I do that? You know, I feel so bad. And listen, well, the option is the devil is going to do, and you're going to allow him to do, using his agents, even if they dressed up more beautifully in the best makeup and hair and hairdo and dress and pants and shirt and money in their bank. The devil will dress his agents up sometimes. Sometimes he doesn't even have to dress them, you just be attracted to them. And you can't let go of them because you have a problem saying no to people. You want to be liked by everybody, and being liked by everybody compromises you yourself. So the next endocrine gland is the adrenal glands. It makes cortisol, and too less of cortisol makes you get tired, you start to have weight loss, low blood pressure, too high things like, when it's too high, you get things like diabetes too. So the adrenal glands is vital to keep the amount of adrenaline in your body stable. But once again, if you follow the chain, it goes directly to what you think, to what you see. And the more bad things you think about, the more stress you have in your life, because you're allowing the stress upon yourself. That causes body problems, high blood pressure, diabetes. So it has to be in balance in order for you to have a full life like Jesus wanted you to have. Then it also affects your reproductive glands, your ovaries and your testes, everything to do with not being able to have children and breastfeeding. So sometimes when women cannot have children and there is no explanation, it is because of what they're thinking, because of the stress, the emotional hardship and pain they've been through. So listen, if the doctor tells you you cannot have children, but it's not because of any removal of ovaries or anything, they just say you have to be patient and wait. And the first thing you think is depression, about not being in other words, the first thing that goes through your mind is, I won't be able to have children. And then you start to contemplate and think and look at other children and feel envious. And you feel depressed. And then you start hating other mothers secretly inside, not openly. And those negative feelings add to the fact that you will not have children. And it is for this reason that sometimes when women are depressed, they get possessed. And because of the possession, the devil takes over the mind and only feeds that mind with negative thoughts. So the devil can't really do physically anything to you, except that when it takes over your mind, it causes you to think negatively, act irrationally. And those thoughts generate an action inside your body that sometimes these women start to have stomach cramps, and many of them won't be able to conceive. And it's all related to what happens up here. Steal, kill, destroy. The next system in the body besides the endocrine system is the immune system. The immune system modulation. Studies have shown that positive thoughts, emotions, and sensory experiences can have a beneficial impact on the immune system. On the other hand, chronic stress or negative thoughts can weaken the immune system. Now, this is a scientific journal. Now, it's undisputed scientifically, which means that they have clinical proof that if you are positive, when you get a diagnosis that you're sick, your immune system backs down. Because of the messages that are coming from the hypothalamus to the pituitary gland, it goes directly to tell the white blood cells that, listen, we're giving up. Don't go out there and fight. And it weakens that immune system so much so that people start to get sicker and sicker without realizing why they're getting sicker. So when you're lying in that hospital bed, stop calling for the grandchildren. When you are diagnosed with anything, temporarily and momentarily, you might have a negative reaction. And that's understandable because we are human. But once you settle in before the night turns, you go to God and say, there is no way that I am out of the control of your hands. If you want me, then take me. But if not, I'm fighting. And you live for the day as if you're going to live 10 years. So you don't give up and fall down and lay over for the devil to attack you. So what you heard from the doctor, that sensory information that you received, when it comes in there and it starts to play, it's important how the mind reacts. Now this is the reason why. When people are possessed, I tell them I need to renew the way you think. And some people don't get it because you cannot explain this in one sentence. And even if you try to, it doesn't make sense until you experience it. So, listen to me. If you're going through possession, demons are possessing you. They only attracted to the negative thoughts that you're thinking. That's why depressed people get possessed. And yes, if you're Christian, and even if you think you love God, you will still get possessed because depression brings spirits into you. And once it's there, things get from bad to worse. First it starts off just bad luck, things don't work out. Then it starts to have bodily reactions, headaches, body pains. Everything is linked to how you're thinking. So if you're going to be delivered from depression, if you're sitting alone and you're seeing shadows and you're feeling something is watching you, or you're having problems that you can't get rid of, and you feel that something is wrong, the best thing for you to do is first read that book that I've got there so you can have an aptitude about what's going on. But more importantly now, spend time going through all my sermons so that it starts to reshape the way you think. And then positiveness. If there's anybody that is positive in your family, in your life, suck the joy out of them, like your children, grandchildren. Stop sitting and wallowing. Hearing bad news, stopping you from going out with the family to have a little bit of fun, it should be the antidote. Going out, because sitting at home and wallowing is not going to help. In fact, it's going to make your situation worse. So you got to fight against what's happening. And your fight is here. We don't fight against flesh and blood, it's spirit things. So your spirit fights in here. The next thing it affects is your digestive system. Thoughts related to food. Now this, when I realized this here, when I first realized it, it sort of surprised me, to be honest, because I'm just wondering I sit back sometimes and I think of the awe of God, and it just lets goosebumps sit on me, because God has designed this body so, divinely. It's like perfect. You know how you think? It affects how your food digests. Now let me give you an idea. I'll read it to you just now. But when you see food, or you think of food, just think of food. Or you smell food. Did you know that your hydrochloric acid, that's the acid in your stomach. Generally your acid is released to break down the food that you eat. And whatever you eat, especially your proteins, it gets broken down by this hydrochloric acid in your stomach. But that's only to digest the food now. So one would assume that once you eat food and it goes into your stomach, then your body starts to make hydrochloric acid to break the food down. But wait, as the adverts say, there's more. It's not when you eat. It's before you even eat that your body gets a message to make hydrochloric acid to prepare for the food that's coming. Now let me show you this. When you think of food, whatever you play in your mind, it goes directly to the bottom and it makes in hydrochloric, preparing, because it knows you're thinking about food, so it's preparing. It releases that HCl, that hydrochloric acid, into your stomach. It's actually anticipating that you're going to eat, because that's what your mind is thinking. That's why you hear grrr when you're hungry. Because this thing is releasing into an empty stomach and it's bubbling, waiting for you to eat. And so you have to understand the magnificence of this body. Everything is dictated to in your body by what you think. So when you smell and your mind thinks it, your hydrochloric acid is made before you even put the food in your mouth. Now tell me that's not amazing. So as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So you're going to be what you think, not just on the outside, but on the inside. Let's read the journal notes on the digestive system. Thoughts related to food, smell aside, trigger the release of digestive enzymes and hormones, preparing the digestive system for the intake and processing of food. Likewise, stress or negative emotions can affect digestion and metabolism. There's a word cephalic. It means the head. When you do science when you're younger, they call certain creatures, because the sense organs are in the front of the body, they call it cephalization. That word means head. So watch this little clip.
The parietal cells of the stomach start to produce hydrochloric acid during the cephalic phase of gastric secretion. The term cephal comes from the Greek word meaning head and implies that mental processes play a role during this phase. The smell, taste, or even the sight or thought of food results in parasympathetic stimulation. In particular, the vagus nerve promotes the release of the transmitter acetylcholine, which directly stimulates acid secretion. Also, the vagus nerve acts on various enteroendocrine cells. Upon vagal stimulation, G cells secrete gastrin, which also promotes acid secretion. In addition, via the release of acetylcholine and gastrin, the vagus nerve stimulates enterochromaffin-like cells, in short, ECL cells. These cells release histamine, promoting further acid secretion. So all three regulatory molecules that stimulate hydrochloric acid secretion, namely histamine, acetylcholine, and gastrin, are made available before food intake.
Just amazing. It also affects your cardiovascular changes that happen in your body. Thoughts, emotions, and sensory experiences can influence heart rate, blood pressure, and blood flow. For instance, excitement or fear can cause an increase in heart rate, while relaxation and positive thoughts can have the opposite effect. It also affects sensory perception. So, what you see, you'll be able to interpret it with better quality of thought. But we'll leave all that as it is, just so that you can see. By thinking negatively, your body is getting sick. So to reverse that, and let there be a homeostasis in your body, where you start to reverse the sickness and start to heal. The things you think need to change, but only you can do that. I cannot force you to change how you think. Changing how you think is a process. That's the reason why I'm asking you. If I knew anywhere else for you to get better resolve to these problems, I would send you there. But for now, I want you to go back and start listening to as many sermons as possible. Make time, absorb what you're hearing. You'll slowly start to see a change of attitude, a change and renewal of your mind. But first sit down and say, I am determined from this moment on. I'm making a decision. I am no longer going to feel sorry for myself. I'm going to stop blaming people for where I am and what's happening to me. I'm taking responsibility. The past is the past. I'm not going to let the devil and his children steal from me anymore. Enough is enough. What I think from here on in is going to be totally positive. I'm going to have a positive outlook in my life, no matter what the obstacles. And listen, because we're human now and again we'll start to feel sorry, but I want you to hijack those thoughts, those negative ones, and you subject it to the words I've shared with you now. That's the Word of God. And once it's in line with the Word of God, now not the Bible now, I'm talking about the wisdom of God. Once it's in line, you find that God will help you to restore your body health, to restore the positive atmosphere around you. But you got to be the one to make that choice. Now, I want to leave this with you before I continue to the next section. For many of you, time is running out. You've already lost so much of time entertaining the children of the enemy. And you allowed them to steal so much from you in the form of your future, your health, everything, your youth. Don't know how much of time is left before Christ comes or before you called before that. And you're wasting away while the devil is slowly, without you even realizing, bits and pieces of your life are being stolen. Soon you're going to look back and say, where am I? My life has just disappeared. And I didn't suck any joy out of it. And this is the moment of a change. that God is designing just for you. I'm going to read to you the book of John chapter 8. Once again, Jesus takes time to explain these things. And if you really want to know truth and deep spiritual truth, John, who was with Jesus as one of the apostles, favored apostles, he's the one that took Jesus' mother in when everybody abandoned them. And he was one of the closest disciples. He was the one who Jesus turned to as his beloved disciple and said, "Take care of my mom." John has some very powerful truth. And I'm going to read to you, reading from verse 31. Then Jesus said to those Jews who believed him. Now, who did he speak to? Those Jews who believed him. That's who he was addressing in the speech. "If you abide in my word." Now, once again, there was no Bible at this time. The word he's talking about is, in Greek, it is wisdom, logos, wisdom. So let's read that again. "If you abide in my wisdom, you are my disciples indeed. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." Understand that. He's telling those Jews who believed in him. He's speaking, who believed him rather. And he's speaking to them and he's telling them, if you live in my wisdom, if my wisdom lives in you rather, it's sort of backward in Greek. If my wisdom lives in you, you will definitely know the truth that is I'm speaking. And when you know that truth, it will set you free. And then they answered him. The same Jews who believed him, they are now responding to him. "We are Abraham's descendants," they are saying. "And we have never been in bondage to anyone. How can you say you will be made free?" So they are questioning these Jews who believed him. They are saying, "Lord, how can you say we'll be set free when we have never been in bondage?" Now, do you see that because they have no wisdom in them, they cannot understand that Christ was not talking about physical bondage. He was talking about spiritual slavery, spiritual bondage. And they couldn't understand that because they had no wisdom in them. His word was not in them. Listen, it get better. Jesus answered them now, the same disciples who believed him. "Most assuredly I say to you, whoever commits sin is a slave to sin." So what was he talking about? Spiritual bondage by sin, by being disobedient to the Father God. "And a slave does not abide in the house forever." So you can believe in Jesus, but if you continue to remain a slave in bondage to sin, you might be part of me for now because you believe me, but you're not going to live in my kingdom forever. It's a temporary, it's like you just hanging on. And there's going to come a time that you're going to fall off because my wisdom hasn't implanted itself in you yet. Oh man, get this. This is so deep. "But a son abides forever." So if you want to be a son, you cannot be a slave to sin. It cannot control you. But until wisdom comes in you, you won't be able to see this. "Therefore, if the Son makes you free," that's Jesus now, "you shall be free indeed." How does the Son make you free? His word comes and abides in you. His wisdom. He is wisdom. Now, 37, verse 37, I know that you are Abraham's descendants, but you seek to kill me because my wisdom has no place in you. Wow, 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 wow. You seek to kill me. Who is he talking to? Who's he addressing? Those people who believe him. My God. Steal, kill, and destroy. Jesus says, and listen very carefully, people, that those are the people who run around, believe in Jesus. There are many, millions of those people who believe Jesus. Some may be even descendants of Abraham, God knows, but they believe Jesus. You cannot deny a person in believing in Jesus at all. But the problem is, wisdom does not dwell in them. When the push comes to a shove, when the test comes, they'll fall off. So they can believe Jesus and follow him temporarily. In their mind, it's permanent, just like those disciples that were following him. Not those 12, I'm talking about these people that he was talking to. But there's going to come a time when they fall. But wisdom was not found in these believers. So listen to me now. It doesn't mean because you're a believer in Jesus that his wisdom is in you. Jesus is plainly explaining this. And this is so important for me to share with you, because there are many believers who think that, oh, I can't get possessed. Jesus lives in me, and Jesus is saying they have no wisdom. They cannot understand the things I'm saying. And that's why even when I speak, there's only a select handful that can understand and absorb the things I share, because another person can listen to the same thing, but they won't be able to get what you get. That's because God, his wisdom does not abide in them. And because they don't understand that wisdom, they will start to try to kill you. Not physically now. And Jesus may not have been thinking about physical kill, because the disciples were not the ones he was talking to, was not the ones plotting against him. So what was he explaining? This is why I need you to have wisdom on. Because if you think like those followers he was talking to, if you think like them, you'll not understand fully that Jesus was not talking about a physical death here. Because those are not the ones that were trying to kill him. He's talking about stealing, killing, and destroying. Who? Him and his disciples and all of us today. Those very believers, people who believe in him because they have no wisdom, they are used by their father, the devil, to make the lives of others who believe in Jesus and have wisdom in them. They want to make those people's lives miserable. And they will kill, steal, and destroy while wearing the believing of Jesus as a garment. That's why people get so hurt in a church. That's why there's so much of gossiping in a church. That's why the same believers can go home and gossip about their pastor. Those same believers will go home and have negative feelings towards their pastor's wife. These are the believers in Jesus. They hate the pastor's family, but they're okay to smile at the pastor and shake his hand. They are believers, but they steal and they kill and they destroy. Jesus was talking about his family. Who is his family? Us. He's saying, but you people, you can't understand what I'm saying because you don't have my word in you, my wisdom in you, and you seek to kill me because of that. And he was talking about his family, you and me. So while I'm saying that, I want you to pay attention to the stimuli that these believers produce around you. Oh, there's nothing wrong with him, he's a believer. That church is full of believers, so we can go and sit there. Because they don't deny Christ, they're believers. Let's continue with what Jesus was saying, and it will amaze you. Why do you not understand my speech? Jesus is asking. Because you are not able to listen to my wisdom, my word. You are of your father the devil. Who is he talking to? Believers. And the desires of your father you want to do. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in truth because there is no truth in him. When he speaks a lie, he speaks from his own resources. He is a liar and the father of it. But because I tell you the truth, you do not believe me. Which of you convicts me of sin? And if I tell the truth, why do you not believe me? He who is of God hears God's words. Therefore, you do not hear because you are not of God. Who is he talking to once again? Believers. And this was my warning to you from very long time. Don't look at a believer and think that belongs to Jesus. Because Jesus the King himself was speaking to believers and telling them their father is the devil. Because all they do is steal. You know, in our ministry, there are people who are believers, who follow me. But there'll come a time that they will shake themselves off. Many have already shaken because they simply couldn't understand who I am, what I'm speaking. They couldn't comprehend it. They couldn't absorb it. And so over time, you'll find the loose ones getting, the leaves are falling off. Some of them might start energetic and they're enthusiastic and they're learning and they're growing. Next thing you find, where they? Gone. That's because they were never belonging to Jesus in the first place. Their job was to steal, kill, and destroy inside the church. And their father, the devil, uses them in bulk. So be aware. Stop running around with blinkers on, thinking that as long as they believe in Jesus, they are saved. You know, that's the biggest mistake. We saved 5,000 souls last month. We saved 10,000 souls. No, they're all believers. But they have no wisdom in them. And if you have no wisdom in them, your father is the devil. Who said these words? Jesus himself. So, open your mind to these things. The protocols of Zion is where we left off last week. I just wanted to read, I showed you the history of these things, of this writing of this document. And it is assumed that these writings probably started in and around 1840, maybe 1820, but it was penned and made official in the 1860s and then revised in 1880s, and then in the early 1900s it was published unlawfully because nobody wanted these things out in the public. But you know, we have access now and it's too late. So the Protocols of Zion, written by the Ashkenazi Jews, those fake Jews who think they are God's children, who think they're serving the Lord. We're going to read what their plan is for the world. And one of the headlines, I'm going to take you through bits and pieces and patches of it so that you can see the relevance. We shall destroy. Who are they like? Their father, the devil. By these actions, we shall obtain the power of destroying the constitutions of the states. We shall do this by introducing into these constitutions, little by little, step by step, all those things which we have determined are our rights from the outset. This will cause an imperceptible abolition of every kind of constitution, and then the time will have come to turn every form of government into our despotism. So every government in the world, listen, the plan in the 1860s or so was that every government in the world is going to be a despot. What is the despot? Cruel rulership, dictatorship. And we're going to make these governments into a dictatorship by changing their constitutions. And as you well saw now in this last year or so, there have been radical changes to the constitution of this very country, South Africa. And I'm not going to go into the details of it. It is much published by now. But you know that it is immoral. But let's continue. The recognition of our despot may also come before the destruction of the constitution. The moment for this recognition will come when the peoples, utterly wearied by the irregularities and incompetence, a matter which we shall have arranged, will exclaim of their rulers, away with them and give us one king over all the earth, who will unite us and annihilate the causes of disorders, frontiers, nationalities, religions and state debts, who will give us peace and quiet which we cannot find under our rulers and representatives. Listen, this people are planning for the future. They're saying our future members have to carry out this plan where they start to make, they buy rulers off, they buy dictators, they buy presidents, they buy prime ministers. And they make these prime ministers put incompetent people in positions of power. And the country becomes littered with corruption. It becomes littered with incompetence, with service delivery of clean drinking water, of sewer water, of housing, of poverty, of crime. Listen, once the constitutions are changed, they will become lawless. And people will be frustrated, the people of the country, and they will start to cry out, get rid of these incompetent people. And they will become grateful if there is a different ruler who could bring different results and enter in the one world government. So they want to look up to somebody to rescue them. And the one world government is going to start to step in. And listen, with the corruption and the incompetence we're seeing, it is not something done mistakenly or coincidentally. It is planned. They're telling us that in these coming years we're living in, this plan has been designed for. Number 19, but you yourselves know perfectly well that to produce the possibility of the expression of such wishes by all the nations, it is necessary to trouble the people's relations with their governments in all countries to such a degree that it will utterly exhaust humanity with dissension, hatred, struggle, envy, and even by the use of torture, by starvation, by the spreading of diseases or extreme poverty. As a result of this, the Goyim will see no other solution than to take refuge in our complete sovereignty, in our money, and in all else that we offer. Now, just in this country, in brief, without going into too much detail, South Africa at the moment has electricity outages, blackouts, regularly, with no end in sight. Running water crisis. Nobody, a province at the moment has no running water for 2 weeks. There's a worldwide water crisis, by the way. I was supposed to play you some clips, but I think you understand how severe the problem is worldwide. There's a US water crisis, if you didn't realize it. Now, the next section is the protocols of Zion. We deceive workers. Some people may be problematic for us in the way that they discuss political issues. In order to distract these people, we are now putting forward what we allege to be new political issues, namely questions of industry. Now, you know, when you're doing a marriage ceremony, when I'm doing a marriage ceremony, there's a word industry in industry. And industry in that sense means in an employment or pursuit. So they want to, the plan is to deceive workers, to give them opportunities, to, let's put it this way, to make people ambitious enough that they forget about what the problems are and what the plans are. They must be so focused on their jobs, getting promotions and having money to go for holidays, so they work extra time and overtime and make that extra money. That's industry. And people will be so focused on those things that they forget to feed their soul so that they can understand in the broad sense spiritually what is going on in the world. A takeover, a global takeover. And this is the way, and they say some of the people will be problematic for us. We won't be able to distract them, but if we can only put work in front of them, for them to look at progress in their lives, then they will be distracted. Now, the next section, in order that masses don't figure out what they are really doing, we will further distract them with amusements, games, pastimes, passions, luxury homes. Via the media, we shall soon begin to propose competitions in art and in sports of all kinds. These interests will finally distract their minds from asking questions which we would definitely not want to answer. Now, immediately, what they said, they're going to create sport. Let's look at one thing. They're going to create sport that's going to be the center focus of everybody around the world. And now, imagine, in 1800s, this is when they put this to paper. Shortly after they made this plan, in order to create an atmosphere of distraction for people. First, they want to make workers continue, deceive the workers to make them pursue their goals at work, to prosper. The next thing is to distract them further when they're not thinking about work, is to give them games and sports and all sorts of amusements. And here comes the video games and the latest ones and the next ones, amusements. We give them luxury homes, Even on TV, you will see luxury homes. Even it's a title now. And now, as soon as they drafted this is what happened in England. Now, this is where these documents have taken root. Football. Modern football, however, started in England. At the time of the 17th century, it was played by young people, from rich families, between school teams. In 1863, the Football Association was founded in England. So, the English Football Association was established on the basis of the plans of the Zionists. So, it was created to distract. Now, the same thing happened with rugby in the 1870s. That's rugby started. Golf in the 1880s. Cricket 1909, tennis, 1882, the Lawn Tennis Association. So, just to show you that as soon as they started the plan for these sports started to take root. Governing bodies for sports became active. And so, today it's come to a point where it is so big in the world, it is bigger than most economies of countries, GDPs of countries. That's how much sport revenue is. And the media companies make billions of sport coverage. But what is more interesting than that is how engaged the people are in sport. That they cry when their team loses. They get depressed. They spend the same money they make in industry to buy expensive tickets, to travel around the world stadiums to be with their home team. They are so passionate that their fights break out with each other, that they tear their clothes, and the joy they feel, it's like their drunkenness in the public, and they celebrate, having braais. In South Africa, that's called a braai, a barbecue. They have all sorts of things in celebration of that victory. They don't even celebrate their wife's birthday with such enthusiasm. The next part is assault on religion. When we come into the kingdom, we don't want any religion other than ours to exist. Our religion of the one God. Here's a one world order. One world religion. Protocols 15. Ruthless suppression. We shall come into our kingdom by the aid of a sudden overthrow of a government, done by our small group and carried out everywhere at once. And all within a single day. It may be a while before this takes place. Perhaps even a whole century. But when at last this definitely happens and has been definitely acknowledged, we shall make it our job to see that things such as plots against us shall no longer exist. With this purpose we shall slay without mercy all who take up arms against us to oppose our coming into our kingdom. Every kind of new institution which is anything like a secret society will be punished by death. Now they're talking about secret societies, even such as churches. And there's another whole section on getting rid of Christians and churches. Now I wonder whether you paid attention. They say it might even, these things to fulfill completely, where the governments will suddenly be overthrown. The governments all around the world will suddenly be overthrown by them. It may take even over 100 years. And this was done in, say, 1880. And now it's going to 150. And between you and I already shared this with you. The target is 2025. So by then, the platform has to be laid. And they say that it will definitely happen. And so we have to brace ourselves for these things. And as we move forward in industry, paying attention to our jobs, focusing on our lives, watching the sports, being amused by it, crying over the results and all those things. And look, there's nothing wrong with following sport. I do it myself. But not so much where you get depressed or obsessed so much that you can't eat. Or you follow that club too, wherever they're going, and you so engaged. Some people even go and attack the club's management because they're not doing so well. Listen, you have to understand that there's more to life than what the cabal put in front of us. This is the cabal. That's why some results too you can't understand, because it's fixed. Everything is fixed. They dictate everything. I hope you understand that and acknowledge what I'm telling you. And so don't think that it is just one season of this and one in any sport. There is manipulation. And they say they're going to come to a place where they're going to start to kill people if they oppose them. And verse 6 says, I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. So this is where Revelations is coming to pass, where they have said it's going to happen. And Jesus says, yes, they're going to plot it and they're going to carry it out. In this way we shall deal with those goy masons who know too much, some of them whom we may spare for some reason, and they will be kept in constant fear of exile. Now, because of time, I'm cutting this short now. But you know, when people are opening, you see, Freemasons is this Elders of Zion, and I told you how it was established. And they're recruiting. You look at your Facebook, you look at everywhere, there's a recruitment going on, Freemasons. You join the Freemason Brotherhood, they'll open business doors for you. They lure you with financial support and brotherhood and money. And once they lure you in, you start to do the work of the Mason. In other words, you carry out the plan of the Jewish elders. And you suppress people, you carry out, steal, kill, destroy, whatever you need to do. And there's some black brothers who are Goy Masons. They call them Goyim. They're calling you a person without a soul, unplanned by God. They're getting these people into the Masons, and they're calling them Goy Masons. And they said, you know, when this happens, when we take over, these Goy Masons, we're going to kill them also, because they serve their purpose now. For some reason, we're going to keep some people with us. Let's read that last sentence. In this way, we shall deal with those Goy Masons who know too much, some of whom will be spared, and they will be kept in fear. So we'll spare them, but we'll have a threat over them, the Goy Masons. So you might have everything hunky-dory, rosy now, especially poor black people in the countries everywhere. They get roped in because of money, because of security, because they're going through poverty. And they get roped in by these music contracts where they make TikTok videos, they get famous, they get money, they get so much of cars and jewelry, and they flaunt it, and it attracts other people and they want to join. And all these Goy Masons are going to be used. And then they're going to be slain because they know too much. And it goes on in several sections to say that they're going to multiply Freemason lodges. And I shared with you, even in South Africa, in the parliament, they have a Freemason lodge right outside parliament. And they declared before us in a video before that says that many of the politicians in there, in the parliament, are Freemasons. Goy Freemasons. Listen, I'm going to close now. One way or the other, the goal of the kingdom of Satan is to steal, kill, and destroy. They have to kill. And you know who the target is? Not the believers in Christ, but those believers who have Christ in them, who have wisdom in them. You are the target. Hence, do everything to stay with wisdom in you. You cannot be calling yourself a believer and thinking that makes you saved. I want you to write your name in the Lamb's Book of Life. I want you to keep it there. Do not let it go. Even if you have to make sacrifices, if you are a person that allows others and the things you think to steal your health and everything in you, then wisdom is not in you. I'm going to say that one time before I pray with you. If the thoughts that you think, the cognition that you have is negative, even if you are a believer in Jesus, wisdom may not be in you. And that is very risky, because you can be dropped off before the rapture. Let me pray with you. Heavenly Father, keep your children in the palm of your hands till you come. Let the light keep burning. Don't let the kingdom children be swept away. Don't let them fall off the edge. Keep them, Lord. Let every believer have wisdom in them. I pray for them in Jesus' name. Everybody said, Amen. Beloved, have a beautiful week ahead. God bless you. I will see you next week. Bless you.